Among the options on the beer wall at Walter's Sports Bar are Annapolis IPA, Green City IPA, Raised by Wolves, and Vienna Lager. Walters is located across the street from Nationals Park.
Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring podcasts on the Blue Wire Network. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of the EE System yet, then you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Wherever you are across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifiedhealing.com/bluewire to learn more and find a center near you. That's unified, UNIFYD, healing.com/bluewire. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System.
Here's the pitch. Breaking ball into the air toward the left field line. Trouble if it's down. It will get down and roll to the corner for extra bases. Ruiz has scored. Winker comes in to score right behind him. Pretty good first inning here in Atlanta. 4 runs on the board. The Nationals 4, with the Braves yet to come to bat. Left side of the infield, well toward the middle. And the pitch swung on it high in the air to right field. Duvall going back to the warning track. Near the big wall, it's going to be over his head and over the wall and gone goodbye. C.J. Abrams homers for the second straight day. His team-leading 9th home run of the year. The pitch. Swing and a miss. He blows him away with a fastball at 99 miles an hour. And Kyle Finnegan with 3 strikeouts closes this one out here in Atlanta, and the Nationals take game 1 of this 4-game series, the first meeting of the year. A Curly W in the books. The final score, the Washington Nationals 8, the Atlanta Braves 4.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Tuesday, May 28th. 2024. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Mark Zuckerman is off for this installment of the podcast, but I am pleased to be joined by the mastermind of this podcast, Tim Shovers, who has a very important life development that he'll be telling us about later in the show. But first, a very good Memorial Day weekend for the Nationals. And that's from Friday through Sunday, won 2 or 3 games against the American League West leading Seattle Mariners at Nationals Park. And the Nats on Monday won at the Atlanta Braves 8-4 in Game 1 of a 4-game series. The Nats for this regular season now at 24-28. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast is brought to us by Mason Kalfis and his team of 10 legal recruiters at Zenith Legal in Washington, D.C. Check out Mason's website today, zenithlegal.com, or call or text Mason anytime, 202-486-3535. The Nats on Monday afternoon announced having reinstated outfielder Lane Thomas from the 10-day injured list. Yes, the Lane train is back. He had been on the 10-day IL since April 24th with a sprained left MCL. He in this win at the Braves had 2 doubles, but the Nats, as the corresponding roster move to reinstating Thomas, designated outfielder Victor Robles for assignment. Yes, Victor Robles has been DFA'd. His time with the Nats is perhaps done, although not definitely done. We have a lot to discuss with that. But Tim, this was quite the offensive showing by the Nats on Monday. This really was one of their better offensive performances of the season.
Yeah, definitely. They jumped on top of Charlie Morton, who struggled this year. Picked a good day for that. The Braves really were coming off a tough day, even though they won on Sunday because the Ronald Acuna news broke on Sunday evening. He's out for the year. So the Nats sort of caught the Braves at a good time in a day game after that. And they absolutely brought the lumber today. And would you look at that, Al? You talk about a good holiday weekend. They're getting the pitching again. When the bats show up, they come away with wins.
When the bats show up, this is a good team because the pitching continues to be there by and large for this Nationals team. And yeah, brutal news for the Braves. The reigning National League MVP, Ronald Acuna Jr., done for the season. Torn left ACL suffered on Sunday afternoon. The Nats offense on Monday, outstanding. 8 runs, 15 hits, which were made up of a home run, 4 doubles, and 10 singles, 2 walks, 4 for 13 with runners in scoring position. The Nats scored 4 runs in the top of the first, a run in the top of the second, a run in the top of the third, and 2 runs in the top of the sixth. And the Nats were all over Brave starting pitcher Charlie Morton. He allowed 8 runs in 5 1/3 innings. He gave up a staggering 12 hits. The Nats were taking batting practice against Charlie Morton on Memorial Day. And yes, Lane Thomas was back. Very good to see him back. And he made an instant impact. Now, I know that Thomas had not been having a good season when he went on the 10-day IL back on April 24th, but we know that Lane Thomas can hit. He has been here long enough now. There is enough of a sample size of his work to where we can say Lane Thomas is a good hitter. And Thomas in this game on Monday as the Nats starting right fielder and number 2 batter, 2 for 5 with 2 doubles. Seeing the Nats 4-run first, had a 1-out double to left field. He in the top of the 9th had a leadoff double to left field. And I don't know if it's coincidence, Tim, but Lane Thomas coming back did this Nats offense some good. He certainly was not the only Nationals player to have a good day, but to see him back like that and from the get-go helped to ignite a big inning, really good to see.
Really good to see. It's less than a year ago, the consensus was that the Nats had one man in their lineup, and that was Lane Thomas. And they just missed him for a month. Very important absence for this team. We talk about the missed opportunity that the Nats have had, not taking advantage of this very good pitching. Well, Lane Thomas' injury, a big part of that, and it was a fresh reminder today of how important he is.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Lane Thomas since he was acquired by Nats president of baseball operations and general manager Mike Rizzo in the heist of a trade, July 30th, 2021. Thomas acquired from the St. Louis Cardinals for, of course, starting pitcher John Lester and his robust earned run average at the time. And, you know, Lane Thomas at times has been better than at other times, but he has been an above league average batter in each season with the Nats. He has been a good hitter. And, you know, we could talk about like bigger picture. Where's he going to fit in once Dylan Cruz and James Wood and Robert Hassel III are major league ready? But, you know, we're not at that point yet. And so for now, he is a key piece of this lineup, and he did some good work in his return game on Monday. But like I said, there were other offensive standouts for the Nats in this game. C.J. Abrams, he homered for a second consecutive day. Abrams has the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, 2 for 4 with a solo homer, a single, and an RBI sac fly. Abrams in the Nats 1-run second, a 1-out solo homer to right field on an 0-2 pitch for a 5-0 Nats lead. Abrams in the top of the 4th, a 1-out opposite field single to left field. Abrams in the Nats 2-run 6, a 2-out RBI sac fly for an 8-0 Nats lead. Keibert Ruiz, his bust out continues. You know, we've been discussing, well, is Keibert finally getting going? You know, we need to see more. Well, you know what? We continue to see more. Keibert on Monday as the Nats starting catcher and number 5 batter, 2 for 4 with 2 singles and a walk. He did get picked off and caught stealing second base. The Nats lately have had way too many guys getting picked off, but Keibert in the Nats 4-run first, a 2-out walk. Keibert in the Nats 1-run third, a single to center field despite having been down to the count at 1.02. He then was picked off and caught stealing second base, but Eddie Rosario ended up scoring on the play. So even on a negative play, you got something positive. And Keibert in the top of the 7th, a 2-out single to right field. Keibert Ruiz over his last 4 games. So the 3 games against Seattle and now this game at Atlanta, 8 for 11. Is that good? Yeah, that's pretty good. 8 for 11 with a home run, a double, 6 singles, and a walk. Are you buying that Keibert Ruiz has finally arrived in this 2024 season, or do you still need to be convinced?
I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. I love to see 4 consecutive days of multiple hits. I mean, think of any catcher. That's such a rarity to do. But even with this big spurt, we're still at 210 for the average on the season. The good news is, in regards to that, Al, I have not sold away my Keibert Ruiz stock. I know it's been a tough year for people who are believers in him, and my confidence has been shaken, but I'm pulling very hard for this Ruiz reinsurgence.
It's been a very tough year, and as we talked about on the last installment of the podcast, there still are defensive issues. Those defensive metrics for Keibert Ruiz have got to get better. I mean, the whole idea of him being the Nats catcher, you know, a foundational piece in the rebuild is for him to be a good all-around catcher, and he has not been that these last few seasons, but nice to see him hitting here.
Are you a law firm partner or associate looking for an upgrade from AAA to the majors? Don't be stuck in Rochester like James Wood. Step up to the big leagues by getting the best legal recruiter in DC on your team. Mason Kalfas and his team of 10 legal recruiters at Zenith Legal in Washington, D.C. Many lawyers think they are stuck at firms with inferior resources, management, or compensation. But it is still an active lateral market with top firms looking to poach talent from their competitors. And unlike a prospect's move up to the majors, you will find the new firm can make your practice easier. Better resources, better cross-selling opportunities, and better branding to win business from prospective clients. Don't be stuck in Fredericksburg when you are Washington, D.C. level talent in litigation, regulatory, or corporate legal practices. Mason Kalfas will discuss your practice and clients with you and help you find a better platform to increase your compensation and career trajectory. He has placed partners in over half of the Am Law 100 law firms, and his candidates rave about the excellent service and their new jobs. Mason also is well known for working with senior government lawyers at the DOJ, SEC, and White House to find positions in top Washington, D.C. law firms. Check out his website today, zenithlegal.com, or call or text him anytime, 202-486-3535. Go Nats!
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Here's your Dylan Cruz update for the game played on Monday as Harrisburg lost 7-3 in Binghamton to the Rumble Ponies. Cruz hit third, played center field, went 1 for 4, stole a base, also caught stealing, struck out once. He's hitting .258 on the season. Rochester was off on Memorial Day. They play a doubleheader against St. Paul on Tuesday. James Wood has been out of the lineup since the middle of the game on Thursday. Now back to the show.
Morton sets, throws, and a line drive base hit past the lunging first baseman Olson toward the right field corner. Winker's going to try to score. Duvall throws it into second, so Winker crosses the plate. Over to third goes Senzel. It's a 3-hit day for Jacob Young, and the Nationals lead the Braves 7-0.
Jacob Young on Monday had a good game. Nats starting center fielder and number 9 batter on the day on which the Nats DFA the man who was supposed to be their center fielder for years to come, Victor Robles, the Nats' current number 1 center fielder, at least at the major league level. Jacob Young, he went 3 for 4 with an RBI single and 2 other singles, and he had a stolen base, although he too got picked off. He got picked off at first base. Young in the Nats' 1-run second to lead off opposite field single to right field, but he then was picked off at first base for the first out. Young in the top of the 4th, a 1-out single to center field, and Young in the Nats' 2-run 6th, a 1-out first pitch opposite field RBI single to right field for a 7-0 Nats lead, and he had a steal of second base. So the Nats got production from a lot of different guys here in this game, offensively speaking. You know, I mentioned the Nats totaling 15 hits. We had in this game 6 different Nationals players, each with at least 2 hits. Basically, everyone but Luis Garcia Jr. got in on the act. Garcia, as the Nats starting second baseman and number 3 batter, 0 for 5 with a strikeout. Every other Nats starting player in the lineup had at least 1 hit.
Yeah, it's been a long time since you've seen that many guys have multiple hits in the box score. I mean, that's a really impressive one. You talked about Jacob Young tonight, Al. Have to really focus on him for a bit. He won out over Victor Robles. You know, if you said that a few months ago, we were getting there, but definitely a year ago at this time, Robles would have been the choice over Jacob Young. But ever since he's gotten his opportunity, man, did he kick the door down. And it was really a no-brainer decision to keep Jacob Young over Victor Robles. I like him a lot, and I'm glad that the organization is at a point where when they do get rid of Robles, it's because the roster's in a good spot in that position. But it really struck me today, just like what got rid of Victor Robles on top of everything else? Jacob Young.
Yeah, Jacob Young, a 7th round selection in the 2021 MLB draft out of the University of Florida, and he does end up being the person who supplants Victor Robles. But of course, with Robles, there's so much more to this story than just Jacob Young. Jacob Young was perhaps the cherry on top of the sundae, but the sundae was being constructed long ago. The decline of Victor Robles is really worth studying and remembering, and I think from a Nats organizational perspective, reflecting upon. From a standpoint of, did Victor Robles do Victor Robles wrong? Did the Nats do Robles wrong in any way? Like, could the Nats have done Robles better in some way? And maybe the answer is no. Maybe the Nats genuinely did all that they could for this guy, and he ultimately failed himself. But, like, it's important to take a step back and understand the significance of this. Victor Robles, per MLB Pipeline, was the number 4 prospect in baseball heading into the 2019 season. As you likely remember, it was Robles, not Juan Soto, who was viewed as the Nats' top outfield prospect at the time. Robles was viewed as a better prospect than Juan Soto was. That sounds funny, but that absolutely was the case. Robles had a really good 2019 season. He was a very big part of the Nats' 2019 World Series championship team, but he since then has fallen off a cliff like few guys you will ever see. Consider this, Robles in the 2019 regular season registered 4.4 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference, 4.4 B-WAR. He over the 2020 through 2024 regular seasons, a stretch of 5 regular seasons with the Nats, has accumulated just 1.4 B-WAR. So 4.4 WAR in just 2019, 1.4 WAR over 2020 through 2024 combined. That is something. And he now, the last 2 seasons, has missed a bunch of time due to injury. He, of course, this season missed a lot of time due to the left hamstring strain. He was on the 10-day injured list April 4th to May 7th. You know, this is still only his age 27 season. It's not like this guy is ancient. He still could have himself a career. And like I said earlier, him being DFA'd by the Nats doesn't necessarily mean that he is gone from the Nats. But when you think about Victor Robles, what do you make of the decline? What do you think was behind this decline? Because this is one of the steeper declines that you'll ever see for a position player.
When I think of Victor Robles' decline, I think about the specific context, and I wonder if we're going to loop in a lot of guys to this across Major League Baseball. The COVID era. You talked about how Victor Robles' best team was 2019. 2020 was cut short in spring training and then resumed in late July, and then the odd season in only 60 games. And then 2021 was still odd. Yes, they played. But my point is that I don't know if that affected him at all. I have no clue. I mean, I know that every other player had to deal with it too. It's not just Victor Robles. But I do wonder if that stop of momentum and the odd stop and start at that specific time in his career affected him, and he never came back from it. As perspective grows in years past, like, we have no idea some of the side effects of the COVID era to baseball specifically.
Well, you know, you think about like Robles as a talent, right? And he was viewed as someone who could be a 5-tool player. And in 2019, it looked like he was going to be that guy. And what really truly evaporated for him was the hitting. Now, the defense did decline. Remember, he put on some weight, and so his defense was in 2020 not what it was in 2019. But the defense did bounce back some in the years to come. The hitting never really came back. And I don't want to overstate what he was as a batter in 2019. He was not a great hitter, but he was a pretty good hitter. He was a promising hitter, and he offered hope to become a better hitter. I mean, his OPS for the 2019 regular season was 745. That's not bad. He hit 17 home runs in the 2019 regular season. That's not bad. And that, in conjunction with sensational defense in the 2019 regular season, made you feel like this guy was on the cusp of maybe being a superstar. And instead of getting better or staying the same, he got worse. He got a lot worse, both offensively and defensively. And while the defense came back some, the offense never came close to coming back. Like, he never approached, again, where he was offensively in 2019. And I've never heard a really good explanation for why. Like, people talk about, well, Victor Robles is kind of a knucklehead and he makes these mistakes on the base paths. Okay, fine. How come he stopped being a decent hitter? Like, what happened to this guy as a batter? And, you know, you think about the Nats from 2019, Victor Robles and Patrick Corbin. to jaw-dropping declines for which there aren't very good explanations. I mean, here we are 5 years since 2019. I have yet to hear a great explanation for why Corbin has fallen off the way that he has and why Robles has fallen off the way that he has. And, I'm not sure which decline is more steep. They're both quite steep. But, imagine telling your 2019 self what was going to happen with Victor Robles and Patrick Corbin. You would have had a really hard time believing that. And yet, of course, here we are. And what has happened has indeed happened.
Dueling COVID declines, Al.
Yeah, apparently so. Hey guys, Al Galdi here to tell you about the latest offer from Window Nation for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. The time has come. The time for Window Nation's semi-annual sale. 50% off all window styles plus 0% interest for 5 years and an additional bonus if you schedule an appointment this week. This runs through the end of the month. Many so-called wood or composite windows are actually made from waste materials like wood fibers and cannot beat the efficiency of Window Nation's insulated vinyl windows. Window Nation's vinyl windows can do everything that you need and at a fraction of the cost of wood or composite windows. You see, nobody does windows like Window Nation does. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Again, that deal, the semi-annual Window Nation sale. 50% off all window styles plus 0% interest for 5 years and an additional bonus if you schedule an appointment this week. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. And make sure that you tell Window Nation that Al Galdi from the Nats Chat podcast sent you.
From groan-worthy dad jokes to patching up skinned knees, your dad is one of a kind. This Father's Day, give him a gift that is guaranteed to take him to his happy place. Omaha Steaks. Order mouth-watering gift packages starting at just $89 when you go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code NATSCHAT at checkout. Each package is backed by their unconditional money-back guarantee. Show your dad the love he deserves with a gift as unforgettable as he is. Visit omahasteaks.com, promo code NATSCHAT at checkout.
1-2 pitch is swung on. Ground ball right side. Garcia has it to Abrams for one. On to first. Double play. And the inning is over. So in what was an 8-0 game, who would have thought that a ground ball like that would be so huge? Wow. But it is.
Back to the Nationals of the now. Another bright spot for the Nats in this 8-4 win at the Braves on Memorial Day. Mitchell Parker. He continues to be such a pleasant development for the Nats in this 2024 season. Dare I say he is the number one most pleasant surprise for the Nats this season. He's not necessarily the biggest positive, but he certainly, I think, is the most pleasant surprise. Mitchell Parker, he in this 8-4 win on Monday, 3 runs in 6 into third innings. But that final line does not do his outing justice. He had 6 strikeouts versus no walks. He gave up 5 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 3 singles. He threw a truckload of strikes, 100 pitches, a whopping 74 strikes versus a mere 26 balls. Parker tossed 6 scoreless innings, but he had what ended up being a 4-run Braves 7th. Retired just 1 of the 4 batters he faced, including giving up a 1-out full count 2-run homer by Adam Duvall to left field to conclude a 9-pitch plate appearance in which Parker had Duvall down at 1.12. The homer cut the Nats' lead to 8-3 when a projected 410 feet per Statcast. So Davey tried to push Parker a bit. It ended up costing the Nats some, although not a ton, and it was worth a shot. It's easy in hindsight to say you should have yanked Parker after 6 innings, but how are you going to grow if your manager doesn't push you at least some? This, to me, still was another good outing for Mitchell Parker, and you look now at the season that he's having. He was called up from AAA Rochester on April 15th. He's since then 8 starts, ERA of 3.45, whip of 1.11, 38 strikeouts versus just 8 walks. What a very nice season he's putting together.
He is absolutely taking advantage of his opportunity. And the only reason he's up is because he was fresh when the Nats needed a starter. So that's what called him up. Looking back at his minor league stats, he only made one start this year with Rochester and only went 4 innings. But you look at last year, his ERA was in total in the 4s, and he did not pitch well in his brief time with Rochester. Harrisburg, whatever numbers. He wasn't all that long ago in Wilmington. Like, this came out of nowhere and makes you wonder if it's worth giving more guys a shot like this who, quote unquote, maybe aren't ready, AAA starters, but maybe just getting in the big leagues, getting in the big league life could turn it around for them. I don't know. I think this Mitchell Parker thing is worth looking at more than just Mitchell Parker.
Well, we have seen over these last few years, as the Nats have been mired in this rebuild, a number of guys get called up from the minors for like spot starts, and the results really have not been very good. Like some guys have done better than others, but, by and large, the results just have not been very good. And so to see a guy like Parker off a guy like Jake Irvin last season doing what he did, you're finally starting to have some hits in this regard of guys who are not highly touted prospects being called up almost by necessity as much as anything, but those guys rising to the occasion. We've seen the likes of Yohan Adon and Jackson Tatro, and it just hasn't happened with those guys. And with Parker and Irvin, it is happening. And it's one of the great things about this Nats season. I mean, it's very simple with this Nats rotation. 4 of the 5 guys are having really good seasons. Trevor Williams, Mackenzie Gore, Jake Irvin, Mitchell Parker. The only guy who's not having a good season is Patrick Corbin, and he's probably going to be out of the rotation once Josiah Gray or Cade Cavalli is ready here. And, the more this Josiah Gray recovery goes on, the more I do wonder if Cade Cavalli might be up and pitching for the Nats at the major league level before Gray is back. We'll see on that. But whatever the case, I mean, right now, there is no discussion, just like it ended up being with Victor Robles being the corresponding move to Lane Thomas. There's no conversation here. Like, the odd man out in the rotation once Cavalli or Gray is ready to pitch at the major league level is going to be Patrick Corbin. And that Parker has made that such a certainty is a real testament to him.
It's going to be a great day for this podcast when Patrick Corbin's out of the rotation. It's going to be a nice change of pace from a programming standpoint. And you just said something, though, Cavalli versus Gray. I hadn't thought about that. And right now, I agree with you. I think it's Cavalli because the Gray updates, have you been hearing them from Davey in pregame? It's the same thing every time.
Josiah Gray, throw a bullpen, and then I think the next plan after this one is possibly a live BP.
Should we get a little concerned here? Where is this going here with Gray?
Well, I don't know about concerned, and I don't blame the Nats for being conservative with Gray, but it's taking a while. I mean, I brought this up to Mark a few shows back. Like, could it be that Cavalli is pitching for the Nats at the major league level this season before Gray is back? And I do think it's possible. I don't know how likely it is. We got to see how Cavalli does on his minor league rehab stint. But yeah, I mean, the Gray news ended up being a best case scenario given the circumstance, and yet he still is going to end up missing 2+ months. So it's like, okay, how much of a best case scenario is that? Now, thank God he doesn't need Tommy John surgery or anything like that. But this is a lost pre-All-Star break portion of the season for Josiah Gray. I'm not going to say a lost season because there's still a lot of season left. But, he is essentially a non-factor in this season at this point for the Nats. And that's why what they're doing from a starting pitching standpoint, I think is so impressive. The Nats have been without their best starting pitcher. He was easily their best starting pitcher last season. The Nats have been without that guy for so much of this season, and yet still the starting pitching has been what it has been. Of course, the Nats bullpen has been a positive this season too. Now, things did not go so well with the pen in the 9-5 loss to Seattle on Sunday afternoon, but the bullpen overall continues to be good, and for the most part was good in this 8-4 win at the Braves on Monday. 3 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 2 2/3 innings. Now, Derek Law did have some problems. He allowed a run in 2/3 of an inning. He and the Braves 4-run 7th retired just 1 of the 4 batters he faced, but he did induce an inning-ending 4-6-3 double play off the bat of Ozzie Albies. Hunter Harvey was masterful. He tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th and facing the Braves numbers of 2 through 4 batters, and Austin Riley, Marcelo Zuna, and Matt Olson and Kyle Finnegan tossed a scoreless bottom of the 9th with 3 swinging strikeouts. Harvey and Finnegan have been so good, and we once again saw them do quite well with what they did on Monday. Who do you trust more right now, Harvey or Finnegan? I'm not sure that there is a wrong answer to that question. Both guys are in really good places.
Right now, Harvey. I trust Harvey every time he goes out there. And interesting move by Davey Martinez to not go to Harvey in the 7th when Law was in trouble. Got out of that big time. 8-0 turned into 8-4 and felt like it was about to be 8-7 very, very quickly. That double play could not have been more well-timed to get out of the jam there. But yeah, I go with Harvey if I had to pick one.
Yeah, and it was notable that Davey went to Finnegan in a non-save circumstance. I'm guessing, at least in part, seeing what happened in the 7th, you have a chance for a win to open up this big 4-game series at a nemesis in the Braves. You want to slam the door shut. So even though it wasn't a quote-unquote save chance for Kyle Finnegan, you deploy your closer in that spot. He did give up a couple of singles, although the first one was a flukish infield single, but 3 swinging strikeouts as mentioned. Harvey and Finnegan get the job done, and the Nats have a chance to make this an oh-so-nice series at the Braves. Game 2 Tuesday night at 7:20. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. You know, you look at the Nats starters the rest of this series. Jake Irvin for Game 2 on Tuesday night. Mackenzie Gore for Game 3 on Wednesday night. Trevor Williams for Game 4 on Thursday night. The Nats in this series are starting their 4 best starting pitchers in this season. And look, I'm not going to make any predictions in terms of the Nats, say, winning 3 of 4, or who knows, 4 out of 4. But things do set up quite well. You get the Game 1 win, and you have 3 of your better pitchers going over the final 3 games of this series.
Probably the most important detail to all of that is that Chris Sale pitched on Sunday in Pittsburgh, so he's not on rotation. And if you haven't been following, Chris Sale looks like the Chris Sale back from the White Sox, and he very well might win the Cy Young. I know it's still May, but absolutely filthy and dominant stuff from him this past month.
He has been one of the best pitchers in baseball so far this season. No question about that. All right, so your life, what is happening in the life of Tim Shovers? Your wife is 8 months pregnant. You put in so much time and work with this podcast. So it's going to be an interesting next month or so for you. It's going to be an interesting long while for you, well beyond the birth of your child. But we're very happy for you. But what's coming up here with what's happening?
Well, I just want to give a heads up that editing the podcast is going to be a little bit more difficult this summer. Still going to get it done. Just bear with us here at the Nats Chat Podcast. Have an intern all set, ready to go for the first few days. But yeah, just want to kind of give our listeners a heads up that new set of hurdles here at the Nats Chat Podcast, but we will get it done for you.
Well, we're, like I said, very happy for you. We wish you and your family all the best. And, you know, we get so many great emails and posts on X regarding the Nats and questions about the Nats, observations about the Nats. I would like to say this. If anyone listening has parenting advice for Tim Shovers, this will be he and his wife's first child together. So if you want to put forth any advice for Tim, suggestions for Tim, maybe mantras by which Tim can abide as a parent, let us know. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to complain about something with the Nats, that's fine too, but maybe at the end you throw in a piece of parenting advice for the great Tim Shovers as he awaits a monumental occurrence here for him and his family, but we're thrilled for them. And we, of course, are thrilled to have you on board with this Nats Chat podcast. Good to see the Nats doing well. 3 wins over the last 4 games. You can visit our website. We always invite you to do that, natschatpodcast.com, in which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. This installment of the Nats Chat Podcast has been brought to us by the great Mason Kalfas and his team of 10 legal recruiters at Zenith Legal in Washington, D.C. Check out his website today, zenithlegal.com. You can call or text Mason anytime, 202-486-3535. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Tim Shovers, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Here's the pitch. Sidearm delivery. Line toward the left field corner. That's going to get down. Nice play. Kelnick to cut it off. Thomas around first, trying for second. The throw is offline, and he's in with a pop-up slide and a double. So Lane Thomas, 2 out of 5 with a pair of doubles. His first 2 doubles of the year.
Primary Election Day is Tuesday, June 4th. Now is the time to make a plan. Whether you plan to vote absentee by mail, in person at your county auditor's office before Election Day, or at your polling place on June 4th, it's important you take steps now to make your plan at voterready.iowa.gov. Remember, Election Day is Tuesday, June 4th. Find more info at voterready.iowa.gov. This message is presented by the Iowa Secretary of State.